On Answers for Living, we're looking at what it means to live in and have access to the grace of God. When we gain access to God's grace, where do we find ourselves? Well, Romans 5:2 says we have gained access by faith into this grace in which we now stand. So we get into the presence of God and we find ourselves standing in grace. The reason we can come boldly to obtain grace and mercy is because we're standing in God's grace. Now that Greek word means stand firm, stand solid, stand fixed, to abide in the state of grace. He saved us by His grace, and we had nothing to do with that. Once we gained access to His grace, it is there we stand forever. It never changes. Now, some people think we stay in His grace by keeping the law. No. We stand in His grace because we are firmly fixed in the environment of grace. And grace is God's unmerited forgiveness of sin and unmerited cleansing 24 hours a day. A few summers ago, I took two of my grandchildren to the beach to jump waves. And we were in the ocean for a total of 4 hours. We jumped waves, we dove into the waves, we had a blast. And then there was this massive wave, and we couldn't avoid it. It hit us so hard, it ripped off my shirt, almost ripped off my bathing trunks, drove me to the bottom of the sea, scraped my legs up on the shells. I was bleeding. The end result was everything was okay, and I went back to jumping waves. I still was in the ocean where I wanted to be. I'm in God's grace. That's where I want to be. Sometimes I get smashed by sin. Sin can do a lot of damage. But when it's all over, I'm still standing in God's grace right where I want to be. Someone will say, and did. Oh, then I can sin all I want. Well, I want you to listen to what the Holy Spirit says. Romans 5:20. Where sin increased, grace abounded all the more. Well, should we keep on sinning all the time? Romans 6:1 says, of course not. But where sin abounds, grace abounds all the more. Two great realities. Number one, we have peace with God. The war is over and can never be restarted. Two, I stand in His grace, and grace operates abundantly where there is sin. You can't sin so much where grace does not abound all the more. Listen carefully. Jesus lives in the presence of His Father, and He is maintaining the peace, and He keeps applying the grace in which we stand. You can't get any more secure than that.